Hey guys, Zomfox here, and today I'm going to be talking about the massive news that came out within the last few days about the UFL getting a new billionaire co-owner. That's right, another billionaire co-owner, not just Fox and Redbird. There's a lot of reports that came out during this past few days. We have confirmation that a team will be in Columbus, Ohio for the 2026 season at the historic Crew Stadium. It is potential that the Stallions and Panthers might be saved. There's questions about Tom Brady's involvement, but oil money being put in the league, confirmation about the ESPN Disney ownership rumor that we heard about a year ago. It's wild. Of course, this news came out while I was on vacation visiting family, but I'm back. So let's get started by the initial report or announcement that Mike Repole has joined the UFL's ownership group. So this came out, obviously, July 31st. This came out very early in the morning and was a huge deal. Mike Repole is a billionaire, obviously. He has helped make a few companies into huge deals, selling stuff to Coca-Cola for like $12 billion, like Body Armor, Vitamin Water, Smart Water, blah, blah, blah. Now, this is a pretty decent wall of text, but the important word there is Tom Brady. He currently has a company that is backed by Tom Brady. And again, in the thumbnail you just saw, he has a picture with Tom Brady, obviously. This is a coincidence, big deal, depends how you view it. Again, we heard reports and rumors a few months ago that Tom Brady had a clause in his contract which was to make him a owner of a UFL team, / USFL team at the time, but a UFL team. You now have a new owner joining, the ownership group who already has connections with Tom Brady. Is it a coincidence? Does it mean something? When we had the relocation rumors, which again, got a lot of credence now that Columbus was confirmed, and they said that Orlando or Tampa Bay has a very high likelihood of having a team there. Tom Brady obviously played in Tampa. Do with that what you will. It's entirely possible this is just a nothing burger in terms of that. It's just a coincidence. Or it could be that, you have another guy that knows Brady and is going to do stuff about this league. Because we'll get to later, he is already saying a lot of things that us fans have been asking for and begging for the league to do and actually say. And yes, actions speak louder than words, but even the current owners really haven't been speaking much. This guy's already basically on the good side of every single spring football fan, what he said. And so let's get on to the Columbus part of this first. So it is confirmed that they will be playing in Columbus at a historic Crew Stadium. Now this goes to something that we're going to talk about him saying in literally just a couple minutes, but this is a 20,000 seat stadium. This is a big deal. A lot of us fans have been saying that minus really St. Louis, even though I love Ford Field, I do think it looks solid because of how the lighting is, it is still, 10, 15,000 people in a massive stadium. We have been saying that aside from St. Louis, pretty much every team needs to be playing in a max of, let's say, 30,000 seat stadium. You need to make it to where you are getting at least a third of that stadium filled, better yet, 50%. With stuff that he said about 10 to 15K, 20K seat stadiums should be around where the league wants, which again are MLS stadiums. Yes, there's issues with MLS and the scheduling, but there is no current main roster MLS team at the historic Crew Stadium. Columbus Crew did leave there. I believe they're playing like Lower.com Field or something like that. Yes, there's the Columbus Crew 2 there, or here. Point is, though, is that this is not going to be the same issues that you have with Audi Field and DC. It's going to be some, but not the same. Now, of course, big deal here. UFL issued a press release, again, talking about him joining, and this is a quote from Repole. We're excited about Columbus as a market. We know how good Ohio State is and how big football is in Columbus. We're excited about the local businesses in Columbus and the fan base. It is a pretty big deal. It is something really huge. And, of course, he also mentioned that there were 31 cities that filed for an application to have a UFL team. If you remember, at the offseason last year, the UFL announced its intent to expand, and they basically wanted cities to contact them about expansion or about relocation, basically getting a team. And so that is 31 teams, and big deal there is, of course, this is one of them. Now, this quote is the big deal. There will definitely be 2 new locations, and within the next 30 days, there could be up to 4. This sounds like Memphis and Houston are done. There is no way they are staying. But what this is also saying is Birmingham and Michigan have a chance to stay. Again, Anthony Miller put that in this article, saying there's a good chance, and we'll talk about that near the end of the video about how a lot of things have been, happening, and there's a lot of potential for what could happen with those teams. There's hope. Again, now it's basically like around 24-ish day or 26-ish days left, but we've got basically a full month, basically August, to figure out if Michigan and Birmingham are going to stay in Michigan and Birmingham. Most fans obviously want them to stay Birmingham, despite being disappointing in attendance. Still wasn't the worst team in the league. Again, they were nowhere near Memphis or Houston, and they still have consistently had the best TV rating As for Michigan, they were the only team in the league that improved in attendance. And we'll talk about where they could move to. But overall, this is a big deal. This gives a lot of credence and confirmation to the report about 4 teams relocating that Larson and Perry broke. Because, again, he's mentioning up to 4 teams could move. That's what was reported. Columbus is one of the cities planned. So, yeah. Now, this is a lot of the more important stuff that Repole said. A lot of other stuff. Now, the bottom right is that ESPN and Qatar Sovereign Wealth Fund also have previously undisclosed stakes in the league. So this means that Qatar, oil money, again, it's a big topic about how Saudi, Middle East, Qatar things, about the sports washing, they call it. Bottom line is you have oil money going in the league. That's a big deal. ESPN, it was reported that Disney/ESPN may have had a tiny stock in the league, which made it to where this is a big deal because it means that in terms of broadcasting rights, they are not paying anything to broadcast games on ESPN, ABC, Disney, stuff like that. That's a big deal because that means it's just like Fox. A huge thing about Fox and about having the league on those channels is that they are not paying a broadcasting fee, meaning that basically what you gain from like ad revenue is just gains in terms of that TV slot. Now, yes, obviously the cost of the league has to count for it, but you're not spending money getting another sports league, getting another show's rights. That's a big deal. ESPN also has that, meaning that it is a really big deal, meaning that the amount of money they need to actually gain is nowhere near as much as it would be without it. Now, in terms of the other stuff, Mike Repole said a lot of things that we've been clamoring to hear. Slow and steady. Don't rush to everything. 10,000 people is the minimum you should want, not 20. He's been saying that. When you look at this, Repole made it clear, however, he prefers markets in smaller stadiums, what we've been saying. Because, again, he says, you can hear a pin drop at somebody who runs 80 yards is not good. Because when you turn on the TV, you see 10,000 fans in a 65,000 seat stadium. It's like watching a COVID game. I've heard multiple people describe it like that, especially with Memphis and Houston. That's a big deal. When you have, and this is exactly what I talked about with the St. Louis Championship. This is why I said that they needed to be in either Ohio, i.e. Tom Benson Memorial Stadium, or just anywhere else. I said that if you put a game, and if you put the championship back in Tom Benson's like the USFL had it, you only need 10,000 people to show up, and it's basically half full. In fact, a little over half full. Whereas if you have 10,000 people show up in St. Louis, it looks like nothing. And guess what happened this year? You had like less than 10,000 people actually show up for the St. Louis game, and it looked awful. If you had that same amount of people in Tom Benson, it still wouldn't have looked great, but it would have looked a hell of a lot better. And obviously the USFL championship games versus the UFL one, the USFL's championship game in 2023, which had less people, still looked a hell of a lot better than either UFL championship game because it was in a smaller stadium. That's what you want to see. That is great that you're hearing a now co-owner actually come out publicly and say that. Now, he also said that he wants to get at least 10 to 15,000 per game, and that if it doesn't happen, he will take the blame out there. That is because he actually has authority. He is the business operations head. He is the head of the business operation, meaning this is his job. And him saying that, he'll take the blame that doesn't happen is a big thing. 10 to 15K is what I've been saying as well. You want to hit 5 digits. At the end of the day, 10K versus 20K, yes, you would love to be at 20K. But would you rather be at 5K or 10K? 10K, because you're at a 5-digit number. When you're at that 5th digit, that's a big deal. It looks a lot better than being at, 8,600. Even though 8,600 to 10,000 isn't a huge difference because only 1,400 people, optically it's more different than 10 to even 14,000 because you're going from 4 digits to 5 digits. That's a huge deal. So seeing him also say that is great. Now, he also said that he has a bold vision that he wants to get to 10 to 12 teams within the next 5 years and get to 16 teams within 10 years. Now, this is one that I know some of you, because I've been on record and I still stand by it, they should have expanded this year to have 10 teams. I don't think they needed to then expand within another year, even though every other year would have been nice. I just think that this would have been a year to do 10 teams, but they're going to do the relocation method, try to find markets that work, because something we'll talk about in a second. Overall, though, this is really solid because, again, this is somebody who's joining, having a vision. This isn't just him saying, we're going to just add, 7 teams this year. He actually has a vision saying that, you have to just get the right cities, wait and see, just slowly build, slowly get growth. You want to see that and hear that from an owner. Another part, this is another big thing that a lot of people, especially USFL fans, have had issue with the league. Remember, the USFL still holds the record for most teams being based in their home markets with 3. The Showboats, Panthers, and Stallions. The XFL, only the Renegades were actually based in their home market. Being based in your home market does not mean you play games there. means you practice there, you live there, you play there. The Panthers, Showboats, and Stallions in 2023 all did that. That's the only year. 22 USFL, just Birmingham. 23 XL, just Arlington. Both years of the UFL, just Arlington. This is what he said directly. In the short term, the league's 8 teams will continue to practice at one site in Arlington. But Repole said that will change in the coming years. In the short term, it's possible that teams will spend 2 to 3 days in their home markets around games rather than 1. That's a pretty big deal. Doesn't sound like a lot, and obviously it's not as good as what the USFL had, but it is still really solid. Remember, a big thing with especially Birmingham and a lot of the issues that with the Birmingham Council and all that happened was that they lost a lot of money because of the fact that, the Breakers and Stallions both left because they were paying a ton of money, obviously, in hotels and all that. So this actually helps those local economies more, so it's more apt to want to keep the teams there. That's a big deal, number one. But number two, it does exactly what people want. You want to have these players actually in the cities they play for. When you've had players publicly, like Scooby Wright famously, saying that this is an issue they have, you love to see an owner saying this, especially because this is a good short-term plan. You keep the hub in Arlington because you're getting the obscene deal there, but you make it to where you have these players be out there for, let's say, 3 days before a game. So even though they're not living there fully, when there is a game, let's say, in San Antonio, the players are going to be in San Antonio for the few days. If a game's on like Friday, they're going to be there, obviously like Tuesday, Wednesday, and so the whole middle to the end of the week, they're there. You love to see that. So overall, in terms of this stuff, it's a lot of stuff, and it's a big deal. Now, before we talk about the Panthers and Stallions, the other important thing to note about this whole thing is what this does for finances in the future. Look, a big thing is that, yes, when you hear that a league loses, let's say, because I know the XFL thing was like $40 million in 23, let's say the UFL lost $50 million past year. And I'm only using $50 million because it's a very easy number to work with, so everyone should, you know what I mean? Let's say they lost $50 million. That's a big deal. That's a lot of money lost. But you have 2 ownership groups. So it's really only $25 million. If you're Fox, you do not view the league lost $50 million, you view you lost $25 million. Right? Number one, it's a lot easier to take that loss when somebody else is taking the loss with you. Because now it's not like, oh man, we're getting really screwed, we're losing a ton of money. Because it's also like, hey, they lost a lot of money too. Now it's obviously been reported that there are other places that have ownership stake. Now, how small is the ESPN Disney / Qatar ownership? Is it literally 1% each? Is it 5%? It's hard to say for sure. But now you have Mike Repole. Now, it's been reported pretty clear that he is like the third owner. Because I know the Redbird, Rock, Danny is a bit weird, but let's just call him one group, Fox one group, and Repole one group. It is very possible the ownership group could be something like a 30-30-20-20 split, 30-30 Fox and Redbird, 20% for Repole, and 20% for other. It also could be like a 35-35-20-10. Wouldn't be super shocked with that, or something else. Bottom line is, though, it's safe to say that Fox and Redbird now own less than 90% of the league, right? And it's very likely they own 80 or even 70%. So they're losing $50 million as a league, and you only own like 35-40%. You're not really losing that much. You're still losing a lot, like 20 million, 15, 20 million is still a lot of money. But again, now you have other groups taking losses like Repole, and you're still losing less money. So the more ownership you have, especially high-end ownership that have money like this, because people are comparing this to the AAF, there's a big difference. The AAF's owners, like actual owners, had no money. Then they tried to bring in somebody that had money. This is a league that already has 2 owners with insane money, and you're adding another guy. So it's a huge difference than the AAF, and it's why a lot of people are getting a lot of hope for the league with this. So that's the overall thing about this. I think that the odds for a 2027 season have gone up a minimum of 10, maybe even 20%. I said 10 initially. I think we're getting a bit higher than 50-50 now. We still got to wait and see how 2026 goes, but it's getting closer to there being a higher chance that we have a 27 season than we don't. Now, finally, is the Michigan and Birmingham situations. Now, the petitions, right, we've talked about them before. Both of them have over 1,000. The Stallions are over 2,000. Michigan over 1,000. Memphis and Houston, nowhere near this, right? Memphis, I think, is like 170, but they're nowhere near this. So, yeah, those 2 teams, again, are cooked. Now, the reason why it is very possible both these teams could stay. Birmingham has the backing of the government and obviously a lot more social media and petition benefits. The fact that you've had this hit over 2,000, the fact that like every UFL post, you have like 4 different people just commenting hashtag Save the Stallions, and the fact that you've had even the mayor of Birmingham talk about wanting to keep the team here. And especially if you end up doing the thing where you add the 2-3 nights thing, it's entirely possible that can kind of get some goodwill back with the, Birmingham City Council, whatever. I believe it's the Birmingham City Council that got pissed off because of how the USFL left because of, money they lost. You're going to get some money back, so you can help kind of get that relationship better. I understand that Protective is not the exact size stadium that they want in this league. It would be, especially if the Panthers move out of Ford Field, it would then be a huge stadium, be one of the 3 biggest ones, if I'm not mistaken, that they're all there. So that's not necessarily a great thing, but the fact is they've already been there for a few years. Again, of all these current teams, they've been in their place the longest, right? Since 2022. No other team's been there even that long, right? The longest, of course, are the XFL teams for the 23 season. Because number one, the 2020 season, again, I view it as a different league, and even if you don't, there's still a few break. The fact that you have the government actually basically wanting to keep the Stallions is a big deal. As for Michigan, multiple people have reported, both Mike Bell and Tony Paul. Tony Paul is a Detroit news guy. Mike Bell, of course, one of the most prevalent Panthers journalists of the league, have both said that EMU would be more than happy to listen about having a UFL team play there. EMU is almost a perfect stadium for the league. The reason I say almost is because the league, as we talked about before, just has a thing against the gray turf. I understand it's not the, as iconic as the blue turf. I understand a lot of people are not a huge fan of it. But at the same token, this is, within an hour from where Ford Field is. It's not in that Metro Detroit area, so how will attendance be? Questionable. But this is a 30,000 seat stadium. It's not huge, right? It might not be 20,000, which is the perfect amount, but 30,000 is still really solid. If you're able to even just keep the attendance you had and get like an 11,000 per game, I mean, it'll still look solid, especially compared to Memphis, to Houston, even to Birmingham, because they'll be in Protective, which is a bigger stadium. So the fact that EMU would listen is a big deal. It is basically them saying, hey, we're just waiting for the call. So you have an option to actually have teams play. Because you can't go to Spartan Stadium, you can't go to the Big House, they're just way too huge. But this is a solid one. It is, again, within an hour of Ford Field. So if you are willing to drive, it's not like you have to drive even that far. I mean, an hour drive is like nothing. So, very solid right there. And again, you have people there that would be completely fine having a UFL team there. Remember, a big reason why they're moving out of Ford Field isn't just because of how big it is. It's because of how much it is. It's been reported that it's like $500K a game, which is insane. If EMU is willing to listen, if you're able to get that stadium for anything under like $150 per game, I mean, hell, if you get it for $100 a game, if not counting playoffs, you are getting the whole season for what you were paying for one game in Ford Field. Like, that's a no-brainer. So there is legit hope that the Stallions and Panthers can be saved. The fact that 2 teams are not confirmed to be relocated, the fact that we kind of all know Memphis and Houston are leaving, it makes us think that there is a real shot the Stallions and Panthers will be saved. You have the actual government wanting the Stallions to stay, and you have the fans, and of course, an actual stadium option in Michigan. But overall, we'll see. Let me know down below what your thoughts are on this whole thing. Again, this is a huge bunch of news that came out. Of course, like the last couple days I was on vacation. Overall, though, I'm really happy and excited about this. This is what I really wanted to see. Because here's the thing. This is even bigger than a normal owner, like for a team. Remember, a lot of us theorized that the league would be trying the MLS ownership approach, which makes it to where like the league kind of owns the team still, so it's like a 49-51% ownership. So if you buy a team, you buy like 49% of it, you operate it, but you still don't actually own it. This is better than that. If you just straight up bought a team, you own, let's just call it 12.5%. Obviously, it's league expenses, so it's a bit different. Let's just call it 12.5%. It is entirely possible Repole owns 20% of the league. We know exactly how much it is. Let's say it's 10%. Well, 10% is almost the same as that, but again, remember that this would be more than likely the MLS ownership approach, meaning they'd own 49% of the league, which would be a little over like 6.25%. So 10% is still more than what it would be to be like a technical half owner of a team. So adding a owner to the actual league is a huge deal, especially because of the reports saying that there were people who were interested in getting a team but then ended up not getting because of finances. You have a guy just saying, F it, I'm just going to buy part of the league. It's a huge deal and gives a lot of confidence to me. I think a lot of people. We'll see exactly what ends up happening with this. We'll see how well it ends up going. But overall, I have a decent amount of hope for the league. This is more hope than I've had in a few months. It's been a while since I've had this much hope for the league. When we were mid-season, we were seeing pretty much every market but Michigan was going down. TV ratings were going down. It was looking a bit grim. And then, reports that came out with the relocation looked really grim. But now you have somebody joining who seems to know what he's doing, who's going to take a hands-on approach, which is what we've been wanting to see from Fox and Redbird. They haven't been doing. We'll see overall. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified when I upload any videos. Planning to do at least 1 or 2 live streams a week. NFL, college football, doing play-by-play. Got the fantasy football draft coming up in the next couple weeks. I don't know exactly when it's going to be, but the next week or two. Think about becoming a community member for as low as 99 cents a month. You get an exclusive video, and this month is a great month to join because I'm doing 2 members exclusive videos. I'm doing one about how I went to the first ever night 1 of SummerSlam, and I'll have a second community members video later this month. So be looking for all that, and as always, guys, have a great night.